Hey guys, I'm Beck Cranford, and I'm a woman who preaches. We're going to dive a little bit further into the book of Ephesians today, and we're going to talk about the historical context of slavery in antiquity, particularly in the Roman Empire. There were many different ways that people could become slaves in the Roman Empire. One of those were by being conquest of war. Rome was always expanding its borders, always going out and making Rome great again. And Caesar had a Caesar cult when Caesar thought that Caesar was God. So Caesar often had a huge ego, was really interested in going out and getting exploits from all the nations, including people. Unfortunately, those who were brought back were often sold into slavery. Also, Rome used sexual humiliation as a way to depress and subjugate people. So this was a practice that was often held. Rape was very common in Rome and in the empire, sadly. Unfortunately, a lot of these slaves ended up in sexual trafficking. Many of them were domestic slaves. They were slaves that were working in the marinas with fisher persons. They were also out in the agrarian areas doing agricultural work, as well as in the temple. But there was all different types of slaves. Roman slavery was not based on race. It was based mostly on conquest of war, but also one could become a slave by being born into slavery, as well as child abandonment. So abandoning a child, and that person could become a slave. So that was many of the different types of slavery that was happening in Rome. So this was not a place, I know in our history books, they always say, well, Rome was really great. They had a lot of innovation. They had great roads. They had aqueducts. They were like just doing really great things. And there was also this dark side of the horrible things that they were doing as well, like slavery. Does the Bible condone slavery? No. Does the Bible condone slavery? This is an odd and fun and complex question because in many ways, no, but we do see a trajectory of liberation that's growing because earlier in the Leviticus record, around 25, let me get the exact verses for you here. Let me see. It's in Leviticus 25. 39 through 42. Basically, it says if your brother or sister becomes impoverished and they sell themselves to you, you are not to treat them as a slave. They are to stay with you as a hired worker or a temporary resident until the year of Jubilee. And then you see that continued in Deuteronomy 15:12, and then Exodus 21:2 about the 6th year of working, and then the 7th year they are to be freed. So that's going on there. So there is a prohibition about treating someone as a slave. And now when you get to the New Testament, that's very interesting because there's lots of different things in there, including Paul's letter to Philemon, in which he talks about Onesimus, and in his letter he says, to the master of the slave, no longer consider him a slave, but consider him a brother. So there's that. And then there is the prohibition in Galatians, which isn't erasing diversity. It isn't whitewashing things. It is basically saying that there is a oneness within humanity and a sacredness within humanity. And it says there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. So that's there. So the Bible, I think, is implicit in its not condoning of slavery. Unfortunately, we know these verses were used out of context by literalists in America to condone chattel-style slavery from early as on as like 1633 until the late 1800s. We see these sort of arguments taking place, which is really sad. But hey, the more you know. Just remember, we can be Bible nerds and not Bible bigots, and we don't have to check our brain at the door.